Hi everyone, welcome once again to A.O.S Abroad. Thank you very, very much for joining today. Really appreciate as we have more and more people actually join our live sessions. And I really do appreciate because today we have another wonderful conversation we always want to talk about. Well, firstly, I have to give a disclaimer. I'm not a political analyst. I'm not anybody related to I'm not an immigration lawyer or I'm not an immigration consultant. I'm not a licensed immigration consultant. Many of what we are going to be saying today is just gist. We are gisting ourselves. Do you understand? We're having fun learning from what is actually currently going on in two countries. Actually, we are learning from what is going on in the US and what is going on in Canada. And today is going to be very, very insightful. We are going to have a lot of conversations. We are going to talk about a lot of things. Do you understand? So if you also want to get educated about what we have for today, then stick around because it's going to benefit you, especially if you are in any of these two countries, whether if you are in Canada or if you are in the US or if you are even planning. Do you understand? You are not yet here, but you are planning to actually come to any of these two countries. So stick around with me as we actually take some of these pressing issues and talk about it and learn, you understand, with ourselves what we need to know about, you understand, Canada immigration and even the immigration to the US. And I have a very good news today because I also have someone that I hold dear and someone that has actually reached out to me. We have kind of seen how some people might need to actually learn about some of the things that are going on in US and maybe one of these days we are going to also invite him to come, you understand, here and to discuss with us about what is currently going on in US, how you can actually also benefit from US immigration apart from Canadian immigration. And we would also talk about Canada immigration today as well. So, not wasting our time, let's go on to those that are on YouTube. You know that we always share some live, how would I call it, articles, some things we actually react to, and so again, today is not going to be different. We have some articles that we are going to be reacting to, the articles that relate to US and the one that relates to Canada. But if you're on TikTok or you're on Instagram, of course, we're having live sessions. So I'm going to be reading out some of the things that we'll be talking about today. But one of the pressing issues that I feel that is quite paramount for us to learn about, for us to know about, is that of the president. No, we can't even call him the president elect again. He's already the president of the United States of America, which is Donald Trump, and his cabinet, or let me say his government have started working on quite a lot of things in the US, which, well, I would say I am happy about. And again, I feel to an extent, you have to understand something when it comes to the president, and not only the president, but Americans and people in general in a particular country. You understand? Just similarly, for those that are in Canada, for those that are Canadians, for our prime minister that has resigned and the other prime minister that will come in, you have to understand that they would always do things to favor their own citizens. And it's understandable. Just like in Nigeria, I believe, normally, you understand, the president is meant to favor, you understand, his own citizens, the people that actually elected him, the people that made sure that he got to the seat. Because as they say, leadership is all about service. You understand? Thank you. I see some people having to live on, you understand, on Instagram. Thank you very much for liking the live. So leadership is all about service, and you need to serve the people. Basically, you need to serve the people. So once you are elected, you are meant to do things that people are going to like, people are going to appreciate. You understand, that your citizens are going to see and will be willing to actually support you with. So I actually got across, or I got to have access to, how would I call it now, a kind of the list of the executive orders. Yeah, the executive orders that Donald Trump actually, um, do you understand, actually listed out that he is already working on. You understand, and that we also need to learn about. So maybe I should even start. Let me first start with the list of orders, the orders that he has actually given, and the orders that we are to actually watch you understand, unfold in the international and even in the United States market. So for the list of orders, I'm trying to see if I could get an image. I think I saw an image that actually listed all those executive orders. Do you understand? And we're going to be talking about those orders. How do they affect? Do you understand? Those that are in the US, and how does it affect those that are not in the US, and how, whether it affects you or it doesn't, what do you need to learn from it? How can we also learn about what they are doing currently in the US, and how can we, do you understand, benefit ourselves by being proactive in nature to make sure that we also how will I call it now? We also benefit, basically, we benefit from the executive orders. Well, one of the executive orders that I feel I really want to talk about, which is particular to what they call it now, particular to immigration, especially immigration to the US, is that Donald Trump has already scrapped, or rather has scrapped, or is scrapping citizenship by birth. Citizenship by birth. And as it states in the US, how can it affect the question that this TOI, which is Times of India, this is how would I call it now? A link that we are going through, that we are going to be analyzing today. Times of India is saying, how can it affect H1B visas or green card holders working there? So I'm not going to be reading all the content, but one thing that we learned about is that citizenship by birth. I remember, okay, for those that are we are actually following our channel and our social media accounts last year, you know that last year there were some people that our immigration lawyer actually supported to come into Canada. Do you understand? As visitors, they came into Canada as visitors, and in fact, my own aunt benefited from that. She came into Canada as a visitor, and she was able to give birth in Canada. Do you understand? And her giving birth in Canada gave her the opportunity, or gave her child rather, a child the opportunity to become a Canadian, you understand, citizen by birth. Do you understand? Similarly, that's what happens in the US. In the US, before, if you go into the US, whether you go in as a visitor, or you go in as a student, or you go in as a temporary foreign worker, you have the opportunity to become, or for your child, not you actually, but your child to become a an American citizen if that child was given birth to in the US. Do you understand? But that is about to change right now because Donald Trump is scrapping, do you understand, citizenship by birth in the US for those people. So basically, if you are not, whether an American citizen, if you are not a green card holder, that means a permanent resident in the US, even if you enter the US as a visitor, you enter the US as a student, you enter the US as a temporary foreign worker, you won't have the opportunity again to actually get citizenship for your child, you understand, or for the children you give birth to in the US. If you yourself are not a permanent resident, you understand, or a citizen of the, you understand, of the country. Now, this is a big game changer. It is a huge game changer because for those that have been actually following up with what is happening in Canada, what is happening in the US, you know that there are some changes that Canada are currently and actively doing. You understand? Likewise, there are some changes that the United States of America are actively doing. I remembered that I also read online that okay, let's go through it. I read online as well that one of the things that Trump is doing, the first day he got elected, he worked on some things. The second day he got elected, you understand, the second day after his inauguration, not election, so his inauguration, he also gives some orders. Now, what were some of these orders that he gave? You understand? Let's go through them, some of them. The one of the things that we see that he also did is that, firstly, apart from him renaming. They said Trump renames the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, but is that really easy? Apart from that, let's look at another article. Another article states that yes, um, Trump has closed the border. Do you understand, the Mexico USA border? And these are things that would affect immigrants. Do you understand? And as you know, many of our content here always relate or refer to immigrants. You understand? It will affect immigrants because many people have planned towards immigrating to the US by virtue of some of those borders. Do you understand? We're not talking about the virtue of immigrating through both borders, whether it is legal or illegal right now. We're not talking about that. I'm not the virtue police to actually talk whether it is good or bad. But what I'm trying to tell you is that some people have set their lives, or they have, you understand, planned towards making use of some of those, whether good or bad benefits. And the one that is quite particular to me today is birth tourism. Birth tourism, or citizenship by birth to people that are not necessarily citizens or permanent residents of a particular country. Do you understand? And let's look at it. Let's take some little deep dive into what we want to learn today. Let's look at it a little bit in depthly so that we can see if we can learn from what the US is doing. And I would read from, you understand, the link I talked about. It said President Donald Trump announced the end of birth tourism in the US for children born to illegal immigrants or non-citizen parents with temporary legal status effective in 30 days. Do you understand? Effective in 30 days. Now, what are we trying to say here? What they are trying to tell us that if you're an illegal immigrant in the US and you give birth, your child would not get American citizenship because the child was given birth today. Secondly, if your parents are not citizens of the country already, they are not citizens, whether they are temporary residents, you understand, temporary foreign workers, just like I said, visitors or international students, the child won't still get that citizenship. And what they are trying to tell us is that things are about to change. In fact, things are already changing. They are already changing in the US. And similarly, some things that happen in the US, if you are someone that thinks and actually follows trends and occurrences, you see that once some things happen in the US, other countries too may abide by some of the things that happen in the country. Do you understand? So you now have to look at it that, okay, how can you plan strategically to either benefit from, because change will happen. One of the things that we tell people, you understand, on this channel is that don't detest change. Rather, let's work with change in a way that it's going to benefit you. Do you understand? Be proactive in the way that you don't just see change as something that would affect you negatively, but something that would allow you to think on how you can actively benefit from that change. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? So let me put it in a nutshell. Now that the US is not going to be giving citizenship to children that were given birth to by illegal immigrants, or children that were given birth to by non-residents or non-citizens of America. So for someone that is optimistic, for someone that is proactive, for someone that is positive, the next thing I believe you should be thinking, especially if you want to benefit from that citizenship, is okay, how can I now become someone that would be able to pass down my citizenship when I give birth to a child? Do you understand? If you really want to actually let your child get that American citizenship. Do you understand? And that would actually judge the next course of action you take. That, okay, now they don't want illegals to actually get citizenship, they don't want non-citizens to get citizenship. What you should be thinking about is, how can I become a permanent resident of the USA? How can I become a citizen of the USA so that I can be able to pass down that, do you understand, citizenship that I later get to my child. Do you understand? Don't, because some people, just like I read in the article, I'll not really have time to read many of what is in the article, but just like I read in the article, they were saying that now there are some, do you understand, petitions that have been signed against, do you understand, the executive orders of Donald Trump. Some have even started some litigation process towards, you understand, combating the executive orders. Some have tried to see, like some lawyers and consultants and some organizations are now trying to see how they could, you understand, fight against some of these changes. Well, I'm not saying here, because as I said in when we got started, that I'm not a political analyst, I'm not, you understand, a lawyer, I'm not any of those. All I'm just trying to say is that sometimes we don't know, as a president, we don't know if what he gives is decree. You understand? Because like some of the things that they said in the article, the litigation process may go up until it gets to the Supreme Court. Do you understand? In the US. So they may fight it not just to in the High Court or magistrate, they may fight it till, you understand, till they don't have no more options. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you are someone that wants to actually get that citizenship, and you don't just want to put your life on hold, or you don't just want to work on probabilities. That's one thing. Because probabilities is, oh, would this thing work? Would they be able to combat it? Would the rule be able to change? Would the order be able to be adjusted or be, you understand, modified? Instead of focusing on what ifs, basically, instead of focusing on what ifs, why we're having this conversation today is that how can you certainly work on something that will favor you? Thank you. I see Olaolu 10 liking live on TikTok. How can you not just focus? Don't just focus on what ifs, but focus on certainties. Focus on things that will give you assurances. Focus on something that would benefit you and not be against you. That's that's the that's the major thing I'm trying to pass across here. I'm not saying whether the change is wrong or good or right, but since it has been given, as when I was reading about what executive orders are things that yes, the president of the country can give, and yes, it has to be abided by. At least to get started with, you have to abide by it. So now that he has given the order in the United States, how can you work towards, you understand, fulfilling that order and making sure that you are on the right side, you are on the right side of the law, and you are not against the what, you are not against, or you are not working against the law. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Now, similarly, today when I was going through our email list and some of the messages we get from clients, some people were asking some sensitive questions about the US and also about Canada. And that's why I felt it required. I felt it, you understand, very important for me to have this conversation and to come on board and to talk about some of these changing, you understand, issues, trending issues. Now, someone was asking me that, do we work on Canada immigration? Do you understand? On the US immigration rather. And the person was asking that if we do work on it, what are the steps, what are the programs, what are the things that they can actually adhere to or they can work towards. And I had to inform them that firstly, we don't work on, do you understand? We don't work on US immigration. We don't have we are not lawyers or consultants that are in charge of that do you understand, that immigration to that the immigration to that country. But one of the things that I talked about, or told the person about, is the fact that we personally are not working on it. That does not mean that we don't have people that could assist you. We have a lawyer, for instance, a Nigerian lawyer, but also resides in the US. Do you understand? He stays in America and is a lawyer, is licensed there to actually practice US immigration over there. And he can assist you if you want to, you have that desire to process the United States visa or American citizenship or permanent residence or green card and things like that. You understand? You can also reach out to us and we can link you up with that lawyer that would assist you to actually work on, do you understand, immigration to the USA. So if you desire it, because just like Mr. Oketola was asking on the what they call it now, I was asking on the okay, maybe I should just read it out. He said, "Good afternoon, Mr. Aziz. I've been following your updates about traveling for some time now. Kudos to your good job. Kudos on your great job you are doing for humanity. I write to ask if you can help process United States of America traveling visa. Thank you very much." So this is a response to him, a response that no, we don't do it privately, we don't do it directly. Just like in Canada immigration, we also have our immigration lawyer that assists with that. But if you want someone that I feel is quite reliable, someone that could assist you with it, you can just put it on the comment section. You can just ask us, you understand, through our email. Some people always send us email on admin@aosacademy.com or talk@aosacademy.com. And any of those platforms, you understand, you will actually send your questions to. We can always reach out to you and we can also always send you information through that email that would actually link you up to people that are trusted by us and people that can actually assist you to achieve what you want to, you understand, what you want to achieve. So if you are someone that wants to work on the United States immigration, do you understand? It's still possible because just like I was talking to the immigration lawyer, he said many people don't know that there are so much opportunities that can make them come into or get into the US legally. Do you understand? Legally and easily if you do know how to go about it. Because sometimes information is power. It is potential power, especially for sometimes you may have the information, but you may not even know how to go about working with the information. And I think that's where many of these professionals come in because they can assist you to get many of these things that could have been difficult for you to achieve. They can assist you to simplify it and to get processes done. In fact, I remember when I was asking him that I said, okay, many of the people we work with, you understand, are people that work on their immigration themselves, but they just need some little guidance, some little support, some little, like, for instance, I talked about our own language services. I talked to him about it that, okay, for instance, we train people for IELTS, we prepare people for examinations like French, you understand, and help them work on their educational credential assessment and things like that. And he said, yes, there are some things similar to that in the US, but it is not all, you understand, the requirement. It is not all the times that you may need to actually go through IELTS or go through French learning. Of course, US is not even a French speaking country. So he was telling me that some people don't know about options for them to easily get their green card, easily get their permanent residence in the USA. Do you understand? And these are things that, because they are professionals in the field, they know how to go about it, and they can also definitely assist you to actually get your permanent residence in the USA. So if you want, just like it is, as we always say, it's all about your choice. Some people prefer to come to Canada. Some prefer to go to the US. In fact, we have some Canadians, or let me say, some residents of Canada that are still wanting, still desiring to actually relocate to the US. Do you understand? After they have actually relocated to Canada, or they are now citizens of Canada. So you can as well, if you want to actually work on moving to the US, you can as well reach out to us on any of those what they call it now, any of those um how do I call it now? Any of those emails that we have shared. We have shared you the emails on all the platforms that we are currently having this live session. So you can just, you understand, send us an email, and if you send us an email message, do you understand? We can always link you up to the what they call it. We can always link you up to the the immigration lawyer, yes, to the immigration lawyer that is in the US to actually assist you with what they call it now. with this to assist you with your desire to migrate to the USA. Now that move that settles it for US immigration. US immigration. All I wanted to do was to tell you about what was going on in the US and how you can actually become a legal citizen, you understand, or a legal permanent resident of the United States of America. Let's now come back home. Let's come back to Canada. Let's talk about Canada immigration. If you remember, for those that were following us from the beginning, we talked about how the executive order in the US, how it might affect, do you understand, or it might impact, or it might also necessitate some changes in other countries. And Canada is one of the countries that is also in North America and also follows diligently what some other people, and which other people was which other country, but which this other country I'm talking about is the US in this scenario. Oh, okay, thank you. Timmy Tokpa is telling me nice one, sir. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you are talking about the email we sent. So you can always send us an email and we'll link you up to those that can assist you with US immigration. You understand? He's a lawyer that is certified, is licensed in the US to practice American what they call it, immigration in the US, and can definitely assist towards your immigration to the US. Now, moving on, I wanted to bring it back home. I said for Canada immigration now, when it comes to Canada immigration, many of the things that happen in the US, even if we don't have the same thing in Canada, there are some similar things that you can expect in Canada too. And even before the president of the US, Donald Trump, even before he started working on some changes after he became the president, you understand, days back right now, we have had some changes in the Canadian immigration system. Okay, God bless you. Oh, Mr. Joseph, thank you very much. God bless you too. Really appreciate you for actually joining us today. So we have had some changes. We have had some policies that have been modified in Canada by the the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, before he actually resigned or before he has stepped down now. And some of those things we'll see that yes, international students were affected because yes, study permits, apart from them stiffing the eligibility criteria for study permit holders or people that want to actually migrate to Canada through study permits, even those that are already in Canada, for them to easily get postgraduate work permits now, they have actually made it much more stricter. You understand? There are many programs, even in the schools. In fact, there was one article I was reading not quite long about Centennial College. For those that know Centennial College, that is a college that has or that had more than or close to 177 programs, about 177 programs. You understand? But due to the lack of students and the stiffer rules towards immigration now, they stated on their newsletter that about 49 programs are going to be scrapped or are going to be paused or put on hold. Do you understand? Because of the limitation from enrollment, international enrollment. And I read the article and, I saw that these are some of the aftermaths. These are some of the reasons, or these are some of the results, effects that we can see from what we can see from the stiffer immigration rules or the stiffer policy changes as regards study permits. Likewise, we also saw changes on work permits. We saw that the LMIA, the Labor Market Impact Assessment, apart from it being much more difficult for people to get, now you understand they have scrapped the point system that benefits express entry candidates who have LMIA jobs. So now, whether you have an LMIA job or not, it doesn't actually benefit you towards your express entry. Do you understand? To immigrate to Canada, because you don't get either the 50 points or the 200 points again for that. Do you understand? For that eligibility criteria. Also, we saw when it came to visiting and refugee claims that apart from apart from other programs or other pathways, they said that those that are coming through visiting visa right now, they are not going to be getting the automatic 10 years visa validity again. You understand? That means if you apply for visit visa right now, based on your reason for touring or visiting Canada, the immigration officers, the visa officers, can determine if they will just give you few months to stay in Canada, 1 year to stay in Canada. You understand? Your visa validity may not stretch as far as 10 years again. Do you understand? Based on your conditions and the factors that are going to predetermine them to give you that what to give you that visa. Do you understand? If you don't really need to be coming to Canada every time, if you don't really need to be coming to Canada more often than not, you may not get the 10 years validity again on your visa. You may get 2 years. You may not even get multiple entry. That's another thing that they are saying, that it may be just single entry that you are going to get in Canada. Now, we have also seen for the refugee counterpart of those, what they call it, programs, people that are applying to become refugees or, you understand, asylum claimants. Now, they are refusing a lot of asylum claims in Canada. They are also deporting. We also heard that they are deporting people, not even only asylum claimants, but other people in other, you understand, or going through other programs, study permit holders, work permit holders, visitors, you understand, and refugee claimants. They are deporting people if, of course, you have come out of status, you don't have a valid visa again, or if you applied for an application that is not what, that is not valid, or that is not true, or that is, you understand, that is weak basically. So okay, Temitope is saying yes, please, is for Canada. Okay, I understand why you said nice one, sir. So moving on, let's talk about Canada now. That in terms of citizenship, because we have talked about citizenship in terms of the United States. We have said that Donald Trump ascribed citizenship by birth in the US. You understand? And this would certainly affect HB1 visas and some green card holders or some people working in the US, they understand, who may not be necessarily green card holders. Now, the let's talk about Canada now. For those that have been following the trends and the policy changes in Canada, you also note that Canada now are now extending their citizenship. Instead of them shrinking, instead of them scrapping, they are now extending their citizenship to second generation Canadians. Now, let me explain that for people that may not know that already. Let's give an hypothetical situation. If you are not a Canadian citizen already, but your parents, or maybe one of your parents, maybe your mother or your father, or even your step parent, maybe someone that adopts you, do you understand? But is not only a Nigerian like you, or a Singaporean, or any other country the person comes from, but that person is also a Canadian. Do you understand? The fact that you are a child, whether be it a daughter, a son, a stepdaughter, a stepson of that, you understand, individual, you would be able to get citizenship. Do you understand? By virtue of what? By virtue of your parents becoming, or by virtue of your parents being Canadian citizens. Do you understand? You would be able to get, they will be able to um, give you, pass down their own citizenship to you. Do you understand? By virtue of them being citizens themselves. Now, that's like basically first generation Canadians. That means first generation Canadians are typically people that are what? People that were not born in Canada. Do you understand? Because, of course, if you are born in Canada right now, you become a Canadian citizen. But you were not born in Canada, but you were born outside of Canada, but by virtue of one of your parents or two of your parents being Canadians, you become a Canadian as well. Do you understand? Now, that's first generation Canadians. But now, Canada has stated that second generation Canadians, or second, they can, like, basically people can pass down their citizenship to the second generation. Do you understand? They can pass down their citizenship to the second generation right now because of the change in policy. And who are the second generation Canadians? Let's explain those set of people. The second generation Canadians is a person born in Canada to at least one parent who was born outside of Canada. That means they are children of what? They are children of immigrants. Now, let me explain that. We have said that first generation Canadians refers to people who were born outside of Canada, right? Good. We are now saying second generation are individuals who were born in Canada and had at least one parent of them born outside of Canada. Now, let me give you an instance. Let me give you an example. I, for instance, am an immigrant in Canada. I'm a permanent resident in Canada. Let's assume that tomorrow I give birth to a child. Do you understand? And that child, instead of the child being born in Canada, do you understand? The child was born in Nigeria, for instance. Do you understand? And I, for instance, I am not a citizen, no. I am a permanent resident. But I got married to a citizen of Canada. Do you understand? Now, the virtue or the factor that happens that, or the fact that I gave birth to someone outside Nigeria, you understand, who is maybe, of course, a Nigerian already, not a Canadian, that person will be able to get citizenship because of the person that I got married to, you understand, who is a Canadian. Do you understand? So, first generation Canadians and second generation Canadians would have the opportunity to become Canadians right now, or they would have the opportunity to make their children become Canadians right now. Do you understand? Than before, when it was only the first generation that became Canadian. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So now what they're trying to tell us is that typically people that were not going to be Canadians literally before, as at far back 2024, 2023 and others, they may have the opportunity, especially when they have passed it to law and you understand it's no longer a bill, but it has been accepted by, you understand, the House of Commons and you understand the courts, the Canadian courts, for it to be effective. Because I think they are still working towards accepting it into law in Canada for people to actually become Canadians through their second, you understand, through their second generation. Now, what that means or what that would affect is that many people now that don't even know that they can become Canadians or don't even feel that they have the opportunity to become Canadians by virtue of their parents or even their grandparents. That's another thing I didn't talk about. Whether your parents or even your grandparents may be able to pass down their own Canadian citizenship, you understand, to you. So what were not prevalent before may now be prevalent right now in Canada. And as a result of that, Canada may be able to bring in Canadians and not necessarily immigrants again to actually fill jobs, you understand, to pay taxes, to work with, to build their economy. And why am I saying this? Why I'm saying this right now is that many of the things that are happening in the US, do you understand? Or many of the ways that they are modifying, they are making their policies stricter for immigrants, may also be occurring in Canada as well. It may not just be the same thing. We may not see a situation whereby Canada will scrap birth tourism. And if they scrap it, of course, we have to be prepared for it and we have to see how to actually better get the citizenship without necessarily relying on birth tourism as we have done before. But what I'm trying to tell you right now is that immigration may be stricter, and as many of you have been saying it is becoming stricter in Canada as well, because they are going to be picking people that they really, really, really need, people that they don't have choice than to just get right now, than before when they are just taking any other body Oh, any other person, any okay, someone is asking, Yo fam is saying Canada is way more nice than the USA. Well, maybe you are very right, Yo fam, you are very right on that, and that is why many of us came to Canada and didn't focus on going to the US. But because of the changes in Canadian immigration, many people have been asking right now that, oh, since Canada is becoming more difficult, how can I immigrate to the US? And I understand. And that's why, again, we have partnered with an American lawyer that can actually help people, you understand, work on their what? Work on their immigration to the US. So it's your own choice. If you want to come to Canada still, there are still ways to come into Canada. For those that joined our live session before, you remember that I talked about one of our clients that became a what that became or that got invited rather that got invited to Canada on the ninth of January 2025. She got invited by Manitoba, the province of Manitoba, through the provincial nominee program. Do you understand? And many people were thinking that, oh, with the changes, they are not going to be inviting people again. They thought maybe things have like it's over with Canada. It's not over. It's not over, basically. Canada is still inviting people, but they are not just inviting everybody. They are not just they are being very selective on the kind of people they want to invite, on the kind of people they want to come into their country. So if you are someone that still wants to come to Canada, if you are someone that still feels that Canada still tick the boxes for you, you understand, you still feel that you still desire to come into Canada, it's very possible. Our immigration lawyer in Canada today, you understand, is still working on applicants. He said yes, applications have reduced. In fact, it has reduced in terms of people wanting to come through study, people coming to come through visit. But he says it has increased for people that have been what applying for permanent residency, for people that have been applying for what provincial nominee programs, people that have been applying towards express entry, because that is what will benefit them. And that's where I'm going to. He was telling me that temporary residency, people are not sure of what is going to happen. He said even in his consultations, he has been advising people, do you understand, to focus on what? Permanent residence. Why? Because permanent residence, even though he said yes, the quotas has reduced. The number of, like, for instance, for PMPs quotas. In fact, many of the what they call it provinces, many of the provinces now have really been, you understand, talking to the government to actually increase their what to increase their quotas for what for 2025, because they see that they need more people. For those that joined my last live sessions, you would remember when I was talking about the quotas for 2025, it was reduced from 110,000 immigrants that they wanted to select to what to 55,000. So that's like divided by two. Divided by two. Do you understand? So now the immigration lawyer was saying that now people are having to what? Having to fight two times, having to compete times two for the same slot than before. And I think I've said it in this live session before that when I was coming to Canada, I remember the statistics was showing that for every one person that enters Canada, there are about three people. Do you understand? Three people that were either denied, were not given invitations, or that were rejected for one person to come in. So now, under the provincial nominee programs, for every one person that gets selected, about six people were meant to also get what? Were meant to also get that invitation that only one person got. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it is much more competitive for people to come into Canada right now, but that does not mean that it is not still what? It is not still possible. That's where I'm getting to. If you really want to come into Canada, it is very much possible for you to come into Canada right now. But the beauty is, not everybody will be given the opportunity to come into Canada. Not everybody. We have to what? We have, just like CIC News, CICnews.com, they stated that PNP now grapples with slashed what? Slashed provincial immigration targets. And this was an article that was published January 19, 2025. And why do they grapple with it? Because now the number of people they need in the province are more than the number of quotas they have gotten from the federal government of Canada. And that's to tell you that they will still be fighting with the federal government to actually give them more quotas, to give them more targets, to give them more numbers, more than the 55,000 that they have allocated for what? Provincial nominee programs. And one thing I always tell people is that don't bother about the changes. Do you understand? That much if you really want to come into Canada. Rather, bother about you being eligible. Bother about you getting all the qualifications required to migrate into Canada. That's exactly what I did when I wanted to come into Canada. I focused on, oh, yes, they said if you want to come into Canada as a permanent resident, you need to get what? You need to get your language test sorted. I did my IELTS, I didn't pass some, or I passed some, it got expired. I rewrote the exam. My French exam, I didn't pass some. I trained better to actually prepare for the exam to get better scores next time. Because that time COVID-19 struck, they were not inviting people from outside Canada. They were focused on in Canada applicants. Just like my last live session where someone came in and said that okay, they were focusing on in Canada applicants now as well. Yes, they are focusing on in Canada applicants, but they are still inviting people because we have seen it. We have had clients that have gotten selected. We have had clients that are still working towards their visas. You understand? They are still going for their medicals, they are still going for their police clearance, they are still what? In the pipeline to actually come into Canada. We also talked about one of our partners that actually landed in Canada this year. You understand? She landed not alone, she landed with her spouse, she landed with her children. This same January that some people will be saying people are not entering. People are entering as permanent residents. People are having the opportunity to come into Canada, you understand, and to what? And to set up their lives in Canada. But the question is, how prepared are you to work towards your immigration? How determined are you to not let the changes, the policies that are being modified, how determined are you to not let it affect your resolve to what? Working on immigration come what may? Because the policies will change. Change is the only constant thing in life. It will change and it will keep on changing. But you have to be what? You have to be determined to make sure that whether it changes or not today or tomorrow, you are still working towards it smartly, not just anyhow, because some people are still working towards immigration. I heard of someone that actually got denied of study permits more than 4 times, and the person is still doing it. Well, the person may be doing it, you understand, especially when you are doing DIY. The person may be doing it to actually improve or to learn the process, but sometimes you may need to re-strategize and see which other pathways to come into the country without necessarily focusing on something that you understand will not really invite you. So you can go on our website, aos.nim.ng/pr, which we have also put on the live session, to learn more, to get more educated on how you understand you can work on your immigration yourself and how you can learn about what works and what doesn't and how to benefit from, you understand, the immigration towards or the immigration to Canada, because people are moving every year. A lot of people, even the quotas that they have reduced, even the quotas that that they have reduced, we will still see a lot of people come in this year. Do you understand? It may not be more than last year, but people will still come in to Canada this year. Do you understand? So if they would come in, you too can also be part of them. You too can also be part of them. The only thing is you need to be prepared to work towards your immigration and you need to be prepared to make sure that the quotas that are being slashed, the limitations, how it is being tougher to actually get that residency, how it is being much more challenging, doesn't actually demotivate you to work on your immigration. So if you have any questions at this level, please drop it on the comment sections. I would really like to get your questions. If you have any comments as well, you can drop it on the we have been seeing some comments on YouTube, but we have not really seen much on TikTok and Instagram. So you can always ask your questions, do you understand, to make us respond to you and to actually, you understand, converse and to interact with one another on this live session. So don't forget, if you either want to work on your Canadian immigration or you want to work on your American immigration, which one you want to, we have lawyers that can actually assist you to work on it. And you know where we also come in, if you want to prepare for any language examinations like IELTS, you want to write your TEF Canada, you want to train for your French language exam, you want us to help with your educational credential assessment, you want us to assist you with other travel services, do you understand, we can as well. Just send us a message or an email through admin@aosacademy.com or talk@aosacademy.com, and would definitely, you understand, assist you with it. Or you can visit our website aos.name.ng/pr, and we could definitely, you understand, you definitely learn about how you can work on your immigration, you understand, either way. Now, okay, let me pin this comment. Someone is asking, aside express entry, can you be permanent resident if you live in Canada for 5 years legally as a okay? Thank you very much. That is from Bobby Dre. Well, aside from express entry, there are other ways for you to actually get into Canada or to switch your status. Whether if you have been in Canada already and you want to switch your status to permanent resident, there are other ways you can do it. I do talk about myself as a case study. I came into Canada as a permanent resident through what we know as provincial nominee programs, which are what? PNPs. PNPs. The province that actually selected me was the province of Ontario, even though I sent in my profile, my expression of interest profile to Saskatchewan, to Prince Edward Island, to British Columbia and other places, but the one that selected me to come into Canada is Ontario. So aside express entry, yes, you can still become a permanent resident through provincial nominee programs. You can become a permanent resident through the enhanced caregiver program we're expecting. You can come into Canada and become permanent resident through rural and northern immigration pilot program. There are still a lot of programs you can use to become permanent resident. But you now ask the question, if you live in Canada for 5 years legally, whether you live in Canada for 7 years, for 10 years, for 15 years, as an illegal immigrant, as an international student, as a temporary foreign worker, or as a visitor, or as an asylum seeker, you cannot become what? Permanent resident. Only if you become a what? A protected person. Maybe you apply for asylum, you understand, and your claim was accepted, your claim was approved, then you become a protected person and you become a permanent resident. But if you came in through study permit, you became an international student, you came in through work permit as a temporary foreign worker, you came in through visitor visa to become a tourist, or you came in and you allowed your visa to expire, and as a result of that, you became an illegal immigrant, you cannot become permanent resident, whether you stay here for 5 years or even more than 5 years. We have had scenarios of people, we have read news articles. I think I've talked about some of these situations on the live sessions as well that we have had, that we had situations of people, Nigerians, Africans, Asians, other people coming into Canada. Okay, we had the case of someone that became an asylum claimant. She sought asylum, but her asylum claim was rejected. And because it was rejected, this person has spent 7 years in Canada. Do you understand? In fact, the husband has bought a house in Canada. She has given birth to a child, or I think 2 children, that became Canadian citizens. Do you understand? But because her claim was rejected after 7 years of applying and staying in Canada, she was deported by Canada together with her spouse and with her children. Do you understand? So because she wasn't approved yet to become a permanent resident of Canada or to become a protected person under the what? The Refugee Act. So that's why we always tell people that you coming into Canada is not an assurance of you becoming a permanent resident. What assures you to become a permanent resident and to stay here permanently is for you to apply to what? To permanent residency through any of the programs that are available and to get approved, because application is different. You may get rejected. We have had some people that got rejected based on the fact that they didn't have what it took for them to get approved towards what, to actually stay here permanently. So if you want to get approved, you need to work with those who can assist you. And that again brings me to my point that we have immigration lawyers you can work with to actually get that status. Do you understand? And to become a permanent resident of, you understand, Canada easily. Okay, someone is asking, Caleb Kali, permanent what? Okay, permanent residence. That's what we call it. Permanent residence. Caleb, that's what we call it. Permanent residence. So if you want to become a permanent resident, you understand, you have to apply towards permanent residence. You understand? And we call it the permanent residence programs. We have various programs that have been set up by the government of Canada that allows you to apply for permanent residence. Example of that is the express entry we talked about, is the provincial nominee programs we talked about, the Quebec skilled worker program we have always been talking about on this session. We also have the Rural and Northern Pilot Program. We have the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. We have the Enhanced Caregiver Program. We have the what? Even the Humanitarian and Compassionate Grant is also a program. The refugee or the asylum, that is if you get accepted, is also a program. The issue about refugee to be assigned to be applying for asylum is that if you get approved, you become a permanent resident as a protected individual. But if you don't get approved, you get deported. That's the two sides of the coin of that. So it's either you get approved to become a permanent resident or you get rejected and be getting deported. That is um the clause towards that immigration pathway. Now, that being said, thank you very much everyone for joining us for this live session. I hope you have learned one or two things towards how to work on your immigration or how to actually get assistance towards your immigration. As we said, we have immigration lawyers that can assist you to work on your immigration. You can send us an email via what do you call it? Via AOS, what do you call it? Via what do you call it now? Via admin. What am I forgetting? Via admin at aosacademy.com. You understand, to actually assist you with that. And don't forget to actually like, subscribe, and comment on this. If you have any questions whatsoever, do you understand? So ask me. Even after this session, if you have any questions, you can always ask on the comment section and we'll do justice to responding to them as soon as we actually get it. So thank you very much once again for joining. For those who would like to actually take, you understand, live sessions, take our online courses. For those that know that, yes, we have language online courses for those who want to prepare for language exams like IELTS, like TCF, like TEF Canada, like CELPIP, like TCF Canada, like what do you call it now? Like DELF. Don't forget that you can go on our website, aosacademy.com. You can go on that website to actually learn about any of those trainings and to actually enroll for them as soon as possible. And don't forget that we are always here to answer your questions. If you have any questions, you can drop it on the comment section, or you can even send us an email. What do you call it now? You can send us an email message, and we'll do justice to responding to your email messages as soon as we receive it. Thank you very much everyone once again, and I do appreciate you joining us for this live session. I don't take it for granted. Do you understand? I don't take it for granted. So if we don't have any questions, we'll call it a day today. You understand? And always remember that at least once a day, once a week, at least once a week, we always come on live to answer your questions. So you can always join us any other time to actually answer your questions. And don't forget to also share this, like and subscribe to our channel and accounts. So thank you very much once again, and do have a lovely day ahead. Bye for now, everyone.